Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving deep today, looking at just one source.
Right, a single article. It's titled, How Does a Gold IRA Work When You Retire?
Yeah, and the listener who sent this in is clearly thinking about the practical side, the nuts and bolts of actually getting to their gold IRA money later on.
Absolutely. So our mission here is really just to pull out the essentials from this article. What are the rules for taking money out? What about taxes?
And how do you actually get the distributions, like cash or we're sticking only to what this piece tells us.
Exactly. No outside info today, just this map.
Okay, so let's jump right in. First big question. How do you actually start taking money out, taking those distributions?
Well, the article kicks off with the key timing. It says the earliest you can start taking withdrawals without a penalty is age 59 and a half.
59 and a half, okay. And what if you need the money sooner? Is there a penalty?
Yes. According to this source, if you withdraw before 59 and a half, you might face a 10% penalty. Yeah, it says may incur and mentions there are exceptions, but this article doesn't actually spell out what those exceptions are.
Okay, so the takeaway here is generally expect a potential 10% hit if you're under 59 and a half.
That's the main point it highlights for early withdrawals.
All right, so 59 and a half is the magic number to avoid that early penalty. What about the time after that, but before you have to take money out?
Good question. The article notes there's a window basically between 59 and a half and age 73.
And during that time?
It's pretty flexible. The amount you decide to withdraw then is basically up to you.
But that flexibility doesn't last forever, does it?
No, it doesn't. The article points out that at age 73, things change. That's when required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in.
Ah, the RMDs. So those are mandatory for traditional accounts.
Yes, for traditional IRAs, including traditional gold IRAs, you have to start taking them. It's not optional at that point.
And, the article seems to really stress thinking about the bigger picture when you're planning these distributions.
It does. It emphasizes looking at your total retirement income, what the tax impact might be.
Makes sense. Getting it wrong could be costly.
Definitely. Strategic planning is key. The article actually suggests, maybe talking to a financial advisor could be helpful for mapping out a strategy that fits your specific situation.
Okay, good advice. Let's focus in on those RMDs then, the ones starting at 73. Why does the IRS even require them? What's the logic according to the source?
Well, the article explains the why behind it. Essentially, the IRS doesn't want funds sitting in tax-deferred accounts forever, right?
They want their tax revenue eventually.
Exactly. So starting at age 73, they mandate these withdrawals to ensure that taxes eventually get paid on that money.
Okay, that makes sense. And the timing. How specific does the article get on when you have to take these RMDs?
It's quite precise. Your very first RMD, that's due by April 1st of the year after the year you turn 73.
April 1st of the year following 73. Okay.
But then, for all the following years, the deadline is December 31st.
Gotcha. December 31st each year after that first one. Now, here's something interesting the source brought up. A difference for Roth Gold IRAs.
Yes, this is a really key distinction mentioned in the article. Roth Gold IRAs do not have RMD requirements for the original owner during their lifetime.
Wow. Okay, no RMDs for Roth during your life?
Yeah.
It's a huge planning point.
That's a major difference, yeah.
All right, now for the scary part. What happens if you mess up, if you miss an RMD, or maybe don't take out enough?
Yeah, the article definitely flags this. Missing an RMD can be very expensive. It calls the penalty one of the IRS's harshest fines.
Harsh how? What's the actual penalty?
If you don't take the full required amount, so the difference between what you should have taken and what you did take, that's the shortfall, the penalty can be 25% of that shortfall amount.
25%? Ouch.
It's significant. The article does add a little context, though. It mentions the Secure 2.0 Act actually reduced this penalty. It used to be 50%, but it dropped to 25% starting in 2023.
Still hefty, but better than 50%.
Definitely. And there's another potential break mentioned. If you make a mistake but correct it within 2 years, meaning you take out the missed amount, the penalty might be reduced further, down to 10%.
Okay, so there's a chance to fix it, but still.
Yeah.
Best to avoid the mistake altogether.
Absolutely. Getting it right the first time is the way to go.
So how do you get it right? How do you figure out the exact RMD amount? Does the article lay that out?
It does. It gives a 3-step process based on the source. Step 1, figure out your account balance.
Which balance?
Specifically, the fair market value of your gold IRA as of December 31st of the previous year.
Okay, end of the prior year. Who tells you that value?
The article stresses that your custodian is key here. They should provide you with that specific UN valuation for your gold holdings.
Got it. December 31st value from the custodian. What's step 2?
Step 2 is finding your life expectancy factor. The article says you get this from the IRS's Uniform Lifetime Table.
Uniform lifetime table.
And the factor you use is based on your age at the end of the year you're taking the RMD for. Think of it as the IRS's estimate of, average remaining lifespan for someone your age.
And that factor changes as you get older.
Right. It decreases as you age, which makes sense.
Which means if you're dividing by a smaller number, the RMD amount itself gets bigger over time, relatively speaking.
Exactly. It forces more money out as you age. So step 3 is the calculation itself. The formula is RMD equals your prior year-end account balance divided by that life expectancy factor.
It's a simple division. Does it give an example?
Yep. The article walks through one. Let's say your IRA balance was $250,000 at the end of last year.
Okay, $250K.
And let's say, based on your age this year, your life expectancy factor from the IRS table is 24.6. You calculate $250,000 divided by 24.6.
Which comes out to, the article says $10,162.60.
Precisely. So in that example, your RMD for the year would be $10,162.60.
Yeah.
You'd have to withdraw at least that much to satisfy the requirement.
Okay, that calculation seems clear enough. Now, beyond when and how much, the source also talks about how you actually receive the money or the gold. 2 main ways.
That's right. The article outlines 2 primary methods: a cash distribution or an in-kind distribution.
Cash distribution sounds straightforward.
It is. Basically, you tell your custodian to sell some of your gold holdings. They sell it, and you receive the cash proceeds.
Which gives you liquid cash, obviously. But the article mentions potential downsides.
Yeah, it notes you might have selling fees involved, charged by the custodian or dealer, perhaps. And of course, the cash you receive is taxable income, which we'll get to.
Okay. And the other option, in-kind.
In-kind distribution means you take direct physical possession of the actual gold, the coins or bars themselves.
So you literally get the metal shipped to you, or you pick it up.
The article implies you take physical possession, yes. The benefit mentioned is that you retain ownership of the actual gold. You could hold on to it, maybe hoping its value goes up.
But then you're responsible for it, right?
Yeah.
Storage, insurance.
Exactly. The article points out that secure storage becomes your problem once you take it in kind.
So, boiling it down based on this source, cash gives you immediate funds, but you sell the gold. In kind lets you keep the physical gold, but you have to store it, and you don't get immediate cash.
That's the core trade-off presented. The article suggests the choice really hinges on your own financial goals, your view of the gold market at the time, and what you need for retirement income.
And again, it loops back to maybe getting advice.
Yes, it mentions consulting a financial advisor again here to help figure out which distribution method aligns best with your personal situation.
Right, makes sense. Now let's hit that crucial topic that weaves through all of this. Taxes. How does the article explain the tax implications?
This is absolutely critical. The article states very clearly that distributions from a traditional gold IRA are taxed as ordinary income.
Ordinary income.
Yeah.
Just like withdrawals from a regular traditional IRA holding stocks or bonds.
Exactly the same treatment, according to this source. So if you take a cash distribution, the dollar amount you get is just added to your other income for the year and taxed at your regular rate.
Okay. What about the in-kind distribution? You're getting metal, not cash. How's that taxed?
Good question. It's still taxable. The amount you have to report as income is the fair market value of the gold at the time you actually take possession of it.
Ah, I see. So the value on the day you receive the gold.
That's what the article indicates. It gives an example. If you receive physical gold that's valued at $10,000 on the distribution date,
then you report $10,000 of ordinary income for that year, even though no cash changed hands initially.
Precisely. That $10,000 value is treated as income.
And this is where that Roth difference comes back in again, right?
Absolutely. The article contrasts this directly. Traditional gold IRA withdrawals, taxed as ordinary income based on your tax bracket in retirement.
But Roth Gold IRA withdrawals.
Generally tax-free, according to the source. The reasoning given is that the contributions to a Roth were made with money you'd already paid taxes on.
So pay taxes now, Roth, or pay taxes later, traditional.
That's the fundamental trade-off highlighted. The article really underscores why thinking about your likely tax situation in retirement when you first choose between traditional and Roth is so vital.
Understanding these tax rules seems absolutely key to managing your money effectively in retirement.
No question. It impacts your net income significantly.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. What's the bottom line from this specific article? We've dug into how you actually get money out of a gold IRA once you retire.
Yeah, we covered the key points from the source. That earliest penalty-free withdrawal age is 59 and a half.
Right, and then the mandatory RMDs kicking in at age 73 for traditional accounts with that potentially hefty 25% penalty if you miss them.
And the mechanics of calculating those RMDs using the prior year-end balance and the IRS life expectancy factor.
We also looked at the two main ways the article says you can take distributions: selling for cash,
Or taking the physical gold itself, in kind.
and crucially, the tax implications. Traditional distributions are taxed as ordinary income.
While Roth distributions are generally tax-free. And that applies whether you take cash or in kind. It's the value that gets taxed for traditional.
So this article really provides a framework for the mechanics, the rules, and the potential pitfalls, especially those RMD penalties.
It does, and connecting it to the bigger picture, it really drives home that your gold IRA strategy can't just be about buying the gold. You need a plan for getting the value out eventually.
And that plan has to consider the when, the how cash or in kind, and how it all fits with your taxes and overall finances.
Exactly. The choices you make about distributions directly impact your retirement income stream.
You know, this brings up an interesting final thought, something to maybe ponder. The RMD is calculated based on the gold's value at the end of the previous year.
Right, December 31st value.
But you might not actually take the distribution, especially if you're deciding between cash or in kind, until later in the current year when the price of gold might have changed, maybe significantly.
That's a real possibility.
So how does that potential fluctuation in gold price between the valuation date for the RMD calculation and the actual distribution date affect your strategy? Especially when choosing between taking cash versus physical gold to meet that specific RMG dollar amount and thinking about the resulting tax liability.
That's a complex interplay. How market volatility between the calculation point and the distribution point factors into satisfying the IRS and your own financial goals. Definitely something worth thinking more about when planning your own retirement journey.